Hello and welcome to Nelson Film, Television and New Media and MAP webinar. I'm Colin Stewart, and also with me today are all of the other authors of the Nelson textbook. Each of us has got long experience in the teaching of either FTV&M or MAP, and we've spent a lot of time in curriculum design and implementation. So from experience, we know what it's going to feel like in 2025 and 26 implementing the new syllabus. We're confident the new textbooks will help you. I have with me Kylie Agnew, Matthew Beattie, Amy Gust, Kelsey Hall, Darren Sinclair. Teachers have a lot of questions about what resources they'll have to support them implementing the new 2025 syllabus. We've thought of some of those questions you might want to ask each of us, and we've got a question and answer session now.
Thanks very much, Colin. So let's now move into our Q&A. We're living through a time of rapidly changing media landscapes. How does this student book begin to fit into such a dynamic area of study?
It certainly is a fluid environment for teachers of media. TikTok hadn't even arrived in Australia until the end of 2018, just after we wrote the first edition of the book, let alone get to the stage where it's double the viewing hours of Facebook and YouTube. But I often say to people, how would you like to be a chemistry teacher if the elements in the periodic table were added to at the same rate that new movies came out? And I just think no other subject discipline really has such a lengthy and constantly changing canon of work to draw on. So it's a big ask to expect any individual teacher to keep up with that and have their finger on the pulse for just so many things at once. But with multiple authors, I think it helps, but there's obviously still a mountain of research to get your head around where the media changes are and where the future trends might come. Having a student textbook, I think it's a big part of establishing a sort of a continuity for the knowledge base. But, it's an incredible time of many changes. Of course, we do have the syllabus for guidance. We've written about representations is applicable to English, and elements and principles do link up with visual arts. But I'd like to think that this edition of the textbook, from the multiple author inputs, does really catalogue what students need to know about MAP, film, TV, and new media heading off into the end of the 2020s.
Darren, you mentioned having a student book brings a certain continuity to the knowledge base, but it does need updates for the incredible changes we're living through. Can you unpack this a little further? So
every subject bank does have its sort of discipline-specific terms and knowledge, but if we go back to the idea of the periodic table, every time a film dips into the codes and conventions, they're constantly tweaked by that new work. So what we've done in the student book then is extended that thinking out into the conventions and the new media platforms, the game aspects, the other technologies that are impacting and updating our codes and conventions. So I don't know if you've seen the Airbnb and Stays commercials running lately. The telcos used to do a bit too, where they've got this cutaway view into the accommodation so you can see what's going on. Things like that. If you think about the origin of where that comes from, that perspective has been in film for a long time, but it's also there in gaming, architectural design tools, and real estate ads. And so I think it is about time that the sort of legacy film analysis language was expanded to really include all those sorts of new media innovations that just keep piling in.
All right. The next question for Amy. The new QCAA syllabus for film, TV and new media, units 1 and 2, is for implementation in 2025. Could you briefly describe the changes in units 1 and 2, what's in and what's out? Thanks, Amy.
No worries. This is going to be brief and big picture, but the 9 objectives of 2019 syllabus have been streamlined into 6 syllabus objectives. So we are now designing, we are creating, we are resolving, and we are evaluating. We are continuing to analyse and to apply literacy skills. In terms of Units 1 and 2, the key concepts still remain the same as the 2019 syllabus in each unit. But Unit 2, now under the name of Stories, has more clarity in terms of the subject matter than it did when it was Story Forms. Unit 1's assessment has gone from guidance towards an extended response close analysis and a trailer or music video or a genre sequence to teacher choice. And Unit 2 has gone from assessment guidance around an extended response examination and a genre sequence to teacher choice. So that broadens the assessment options. But because of the adjustments to Unit 3 and 4 projects, there are now more pre-production formats open for teachers. So for instance, there's now a script rather than just a storyboard and treatment as possibilities. So that may impact the teacher choices that are made in terms of the assessments in Unit 1 and 2.
Kylie, over to you. How does the student book address the key concept of representations for film, TV, new media, and media arts in practice students?
After our experience with teaching senior film, TV and new media in the new QCE/ATAR system and feedback from teachers, we have significantly increased representations in the 2025 edition of the Units 1 and 2 student book to reflect the changes in the media and education landscape and also to support students in developing a comprehensive understanding of this key concept. An understanding of representations is necessary for both making and responding tasks, whether students are justifying how representations will be created for their productions, or whether they are analysing and evaluating representations in an extended response assessment. We also expanded the section to encompass relevant topics for the media arts and practice students, as representations is also one of the 4 units in the applied syllabus. One of the major updates in this section is the coverage of representations of people. It was important to the author team that this section be extended not only to be consistent with contemporary media criticism and research about screen representations, but also so students using the book could see themselves represented in the text. Previously, we included an in-depth examination of gender portrayal in media over time, and now we have expanded this area to include representations of people in terms of gender, cultural and linguistic diversity, First Nations people, neurodiversity and disability, age groups, family and relationships, and LGBTQIA+ representations. Unit 2 of the Film, TV and New Media syllabus requires students to be able to evaluate representations in relation to their impacts on audiences and their relation to context, such as the evolution of teen film. An important function of this chapter is to provide students with an overview of the changes in representations over time and how these link to context of production and use. What might have been normal 50 years ago is sometimes problematic now. And the student book doesn't shy away from the issues with representations across both historical and contemporary media, such as when people or groups of people are underrepresented or misrepresented in screen stories. The importance of authenticity in representing people is highlighted in these sections, along with advice from contemporary screen practitioners about ways to make this happen. Representations of place, ideas, and events are also included to align with the key concept definition. The representation of place considers human environments and natural places, and how these are represented on screen to create meaning, sometimes almost being a character in the story itself. And being aware of how representations of ideas and events are constructed and who constructs them is a vital part of critical literacy for our students. And also in this part of the chapter, students are introduced to one of my favorite words, zeitgeist, to explore context of production. Media arts and practice students are also well supported to create representations in their projects across the 4 units, such as the critical analysis of representations of ideas in order to be able to effectively persuade an audience for Unit Option D. For MAP Unit Option B, representations, the chapter finishes with representations in social media and gaming. The representations chapter is a truly comprehensive exploration of this key concept that we can find currently in high school textbooks. We're excited for this resource to be available for Queensland students and teachers to support the implementation of the 2025 QCAA Film, TV and New Media syllabus and the current Media Arts and Practice syllabus.
Now to Matthew, the area of artificial intelligence. How has this constantly evolving area been addressed in the new QCE Units 1 and 2 student book?
Thank you. That is an excellent question. I think it's important to consider AI from both sides of the coin. So not just AI's machine integration, but also about how we insert ourselves into a dialogue with AI. So on that point, you need to sort of consider how artificial intelligence comes with its own form of literacy, and that we need to understand that and use it to gain insight into the ways that AI and automation might dominate and control the media sphere. Now, that's a very loaded statement to begin with, and I apologize for that, but I think it's an important context to raise when you're trying to explain why AI needs to be in a textbook, that there's a lot of complex sort of things going on. And in an area where students are experiencing AI in sort of, beginner stage, these kind of questions need to be sort of addressed. At this point in time, AI raises too many important questions, I think, to at least not start a discussion of some kind in the classroom. So, for example, how might AI integration and its processes begin to shape how we perceive the world and our everyday lives? Or another question could be, what changes are likely to be seen in our identity in spaces like work and leisure, as well as education? Because AI is being implemented everywhere, these sorts of things are becoming more and more important to talk about. Recognize capabilities and limitations, understand social, political, and economic impacts. So really what we're talking about here is providing teachers and students with a way to access AI at an introductory level so that critical conversations can begin to happen in the classroom. It was important for us to develop this perspective, or a perspective that avoided tech panic, since AI's integration in society is both inevitable and global, and very much a part of the future focuses of 21st century skills. So to help with developing this context, we came up with a list of important aspects to cover, such as understanding AI decision-making processes, recognizing the artist's role in AI generative content, awareness of potential biases in AI systems, the ability to interpret AI output, and knowledge of ethical considerations in AI development and use. And so just in closing, I think it's good to say that we're hoping that the perspectives that we created in the textbook are able to at least make an impact on our discussions of 21st century skills and AI education in classrooms. I think that as a takeaway, we hope to encourage advancing technical skills or the ability to adapt to new job markets, so that learning about AI is ultimately for maintaining agency in an ever-increasing AI-influenced world.
So the next question is for Colin. For this edition of Nelson Film, Television and New Media for QCE, why did you decide to publish two separate student books, Units 1 and 2 and map options A to D, and Units 3 and 4 for Film, TV and New Media? And if you could also tell us a little bit about what's new in this edition.
Well, first, why two books? Far and away the best thing about having two books is there's a lot more space to take a much richer book overall. FTV&M and MAP are subjects of enthusiasm and passion for teachers as well as students, and having the most contemporary media content to pick and choose from is an advantage of two books. Having two separate textbooks and separate online support, it also makes a lot more sense once Media Arts and Practice comes on board. Two books allowed us the space to be able to include MAP as a whole. A lot of schools are now running both courses, and sometimes they've got composite classes. So the same book in year 11 is an advantage when MAP starts off, and it could be choosing any one of those four options. and we've got options A to D for MAP now in Book 1. In MAP and Units 1 and 2, FTV and M, students have a lot of content. They develop their foundational skills and begin working with practical ways of applying theory, and it just made the sense to put them together in Book 1. Year 12 is separate in Book 2. Just having Units 3 and 4 allowed us to make them feel special, I think, the Year 12s, and especially concentrate on their needs. Year 12 is all the complexity around student assessments, the IAs, and the external exam. In Book 2, we can cover the ISMGs and how to achieve more highly on them, and we can truly explain the cognitions. We can give them special training in knowledge retrieval and how to respond to the exam conditions. The differences are the new books are much more supportive of teachers, and they're also different learning styles for students. And school courses can be more customizable and appealing because there's so much more content available to choose from. The books are more visual, and we recognize now that the learning channel that the images supply is really important. The contents, this is from focus groups, is more natural and practical approach, so there's less jumping around in the book. And the new syllabus cognitions are now the focus of the activities. So we're providing them a lot more scaffolding for each cognitive verb by carefully scaffolding and using the enabling cognitions within the cognitive verb. The syllabus now has got a lot more increased freedom about how people choose their pre-production type. And we've got a special chapter now that goes through all of those types. And there's also a new section on exam preparation for both Year 11 and Year 12. How schools do some kinds of formative assessment in Year 11 is becoming more popular and as an exam. And there's a real exam, of course, in Year 12. Finally, I'm pleased to say there's something that every media teacher's been calling for: online customizable tests matched to the key concepts and the chapters. These are accessed online via Cogniro Assess within Nelson MindTap.
Thanks very much, Colin. And now to our final question to Kelsey. How are media arts in practice students supported in this new student book?
Well, with my background teaching both media arts in practice and film, television and new media, this was really an exciting opportunity to contribute to the brand new content, and another great reason to split this textbook into two. While the focus is on Unit 1 and 2 for the general syllabus, the MAP content includes all units from A to D due to the flexible nature of the course organisation. With the update of the QCE syllabus for both film, television, and new media and media arts in practice, we wanted to provide the guidance and examples of the possibilities of the MAP units, knowing that ultimately teachers can choose whatever they want within a suitable framework for the order they teach their content of their students across those two areas and those 2 years of study. So to give you just a quick high-level snapshot, how the content addresses the MAP syllabus. Unit A, Personal Viewpoints, covers options such as exploring music videos and non-fiction films. Unit B, Representations, looks at social media and gaming. For Unit C, there is an up-to-date content on news and non-fiction films such as documentaries. And finally, Unit D, Persuasion, we have looked at advertising and photography as a mode of inspiration for teachers. Our hope is to give teachers possible frameworks on how to plan and assess their units using the textbook content as a nice guiding platform for them.
Fantastic. Thank you to our author team for running this Q&A. That was really insightful and some great value-added features in this book and in the digital support via Nelson MindTap. We're so excited to bring you this new edition of Nelson Film, Television and New Media, QCE, which is created by an expert author team to support the needs of students using the new technologies of the contemporary media landscape. This resource is a comprehensive resource that inspires and engages QCE media students and offers a fresh approach to film, television and new media and media arts in practice to help your students succeed. As you can see here, the options available for ordering are print and digital. So Nelson Film, Television and New Media QCE Units 1 and 2 is available this year in Term 4. And then Nelson Film, Television and New Media QCE Units 3 and 4 is available next year. For print, that's $74.95, and for digital, that's $29.95. So the great thing is you will be able to use these resources as they become available and implement them alongside the new syllabus. And just lastly, I'd ask you to reach out to your friendly learning consultants for any queries you have or to book meeting times. Both Amanda and David are here to support you with any questions you have around the series. You can reach out, and thank you very much for your time.